can you just take us back to maybe the last few weeks or what this timeline has been for you?
Well, we had met through the course of the summer and kind of all agreed that we really wanted it to happen from their point of view and from mine. So that was really never in doubt. And then, as you've all well documented, we had a whole host of things that took priority over that, and it was never really kind of on the radar. And over the last couple of months, Kevin kind of told me what they were thinking. I told them what I was thinking. They made me an offer, and I accepted it. I think this is the fourth contract. The entire negotiating time over the last 4 contracts been about 10 minutes. In truth, they've always been very fair to me, and I'm exceptionally happy here. So it's a good fit, and it went well.
Yeah, making announcements and stuff like that, I don't know if there's ever any perfect timing. You know, we found some time, gave them a couple of days to kind of decompress during the break there, and we had a chance to sit down and conclude a conversation that we really started, back in the summertime, and obviously came to the results and find a time to squeeze in the announcement somewhere.
There's very few coaches that have lasted as long as you have
right.
with one organization. Why? Why is that?
We do a pretty good job here. Communication is always the most important thing in any relationship, and that's north of me and south of me. So with ownership and management and with the players, and you always want to feel that you're on the same page and feel like you're moving in the same direction. So from my point of view, that part's been easy from ownership and management from the very first conversation with Kevin, very clear about the direction of the team and the expectations of that team. And I'm fortunate to work for hockey men. And what I mean by that, we have a very strong understanding of what's on the ice and the expectations of that group. So you're in sync with that. And then we have a really good kind of young group of guys that are coming together and I think making really important strides in their individual game, which will eventually lead to a real strong team game here. So being able to communicate and work within that group is, I'm not going to say it's a strength of mine. I'm going to say I've been very fortunate in that situation. So that my 2 long-term situations are almost identical. Very stable ownership that understand the game. And both the general managers that I've worked for over a long period of time have won. Jim's in the Hall of Fame. Kevin won a Stanley Cup in Chicago. So they understand where their team is at and the progression of building. And that understanding is critical for coaches, that they have a deep understanding of the game and where your team's at.
How important is continuity for a head coach?
That's more for the head coach, I guess. See, that's kind of a joke. See, if there was no continuity, you get fired, right? So that's kind of most important is the direction, right? Like as a coach, you have to be able to grow and evolve and change with your group as it changes around you. And we would have gone through the major change that you find is when an organization gets very young and builds through that, so that you're not. Certainly we all have our principles and our belief in the game, but you have to be able to add things to your game to change the way you view players to evolve is the word. That's the most important thing.
So it was really it's a constant conversation that Paul and I have had, and just his approach and his understanding and his willingness to appreciate the different steps that have gone along the way. So certainly that that factors into it. Some of the things that a lot of you don't get to see is the preparation side of the game. How even from how Paul and his staff prepared from when they first came in here to how they prepare now. Obviously, we live in a much more open world when it comes to analytics and the different situations that coaches are faced with on a nightly basis. And to see his approach, to see how he embraces different things, his openness to continue to try to evolve, to try to learn, to try to become a better coach and a better person, and all along maintaining some of his best traits as far as communication and a willingness to understand that players have opinions, players have feelings, players understand that they want to be a part of the game. So it's a combination of a lot of things that and an evolution of a good coach that is staying true to his roots, but evolving with things over time as well.
I don't know if this is a fair assessment, but a lot of times people will say that sometimes just after a coach has been somewhere for a while, the message gets tuned out.
Right.
What have you done in your career to avoid that happening?
Well, there are two things running concurrently here. One is that we've had a fairly major changeover when we got real young, and we've had a fair amount of personnel change, so there's new ears in there. And then we would have worked very, very hard, especially in those 2 years that we got very young, of being mindful of the need to change and evolve with the group. So what we run today is considerably different than what we would have run 4 or 5 years ago, because our group has changed, the style of game that we're able to play with this team, and more importantly, the style that we believe we're going to be able to play here in years going forward. So there was an awful lot of, I use the word evolve a lot, but we spent an awful lot of time trying to do things differently, change things, not get stuck, and we're just running this concept. So how we move the puck, what we're capable of doing, where our strengths and weaknesses really changed in 4 or 5 years and continue. And maybe this year more than ever, there's more change in style of game because of the changeover in our personnel, just to be very mindful of that need to evolve.
So that can be beneficial because things are fresh, things are changing. What's the difficulties you run into sometimes with players who want to keep things the way they are? This is working, let's keep doing what we're doing, I don't want to evolve.
Then you are really, really reliant on your leadership group. And there are 4 or 5 really important pieces to me in my real desire to be here: ownership and management, the excitement of the off-ice staff. It's a great group of coaches, but also the people behind the scenes make it a great work environment. A really strong leadership group here. So we'll look at, so I talk about Blake all the time and the changes that he's made in his game, and that's obvious, right? He's gone from a 91-point guy at wing, and then he goes to center ice because we absolutely need him to. But Mark Scheifele as well, the evolution of his game, he doesn't get to play with Blake. He's taken on 2 young guys on the wing. This is a proud guy that wants to produce a lot of points. We know he's very capable, but there's some mentorship that goes on when you take on a young player. So those young guys have kind of challenged our leadership group to become partial coaches in that room. That has a big piece of it. The biggest one of all, I mean, I'm on the record of, and I can't explain to you clearly how important Winnipeg has been to my family. But the biggest reason in all this is I truly believe in this team's ability to win. And if you're on the outside looking in and you're trying to pick a job out there, you want to coach the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, the things that we're going through this year, and some of it is just the changeover for having young players come in and put up the points that they did, is that you have to shift your lineup around, but then that core is still there. And I think in what we're going through this year is going to be a big driver into us getting to that next level with a team that won't be young in a couple of years. Like, this is still a very young group. When you think of the difference between a 23-year-old and a 25-year-old, the most exciting thing is I think this team can win.
Did you use an agent at all?
No, I never have.
Okay.
Jimmy just used to tell me, this is what we're paying you, kid. I've got now with the flow of information, you have a really good understanding of what the league is. But most importantly, Mark Chipman and ownership and Chevy have been very fair. So there wasn't a negotiation because there didn't need to be one. That was fair. I'm more than happy to work for that.